Okay. Welcome to Into the Channel podcast for Familiar About Women's Football. I am your host, Dino DeCespedes, and today I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grand Angle, as well as a very special guest.
I am feeling fantastic, Dino, and that is because we are once
feeling,
again.
Grant?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. Like I said, fantastic, because we are once again joined by a true legend of the game. She is a quadruple winner with the mighty Arsenal FC, including, of course, the 2006-2007 UEFA Women's Champions League, and she is the owner of a third-place medal from the 2015 World Cup. Now she spends her time globetrotting while educating the masses on the sport we all love so much, where you've surely heard her work on DAZN, Amazon Prime, and a couple of little channels you might have heard of, ESPN and ABC. She was a human avalanche of goals when she played, and she is an avalanche of information in the broadcast booth. It is truly an honor and a privilege to welcome back to the program, Lianne Sanderson.
Oh, thanks, Grant. Thanks, Dino. Loving it. You always make me feel good, you guys. I really appreciate the love, and right back at you.
Awesome. Well, you're the best. All right, let's get into it. As everyone predicted, Barcelona and Arsenal in the Champions League final, the most obvious thing they could have ever. No, I'm just joking. Before we get to the final, Liam, I want to chop it up with you for sure. You obviously have that Champions League experience in your background, and obviously doing great work with DAZN covering it. But I want to get to the two semifinalists that didn't get through. Chelsea, my pick to kind of like make it all the way. They got so close last year, tantalizingly close versus Barcelona. What do you think went wrong for Chelsea?
Oof, I mean, I don't know if we have enough time to kind of even touch upon it because, 8-2 over the two legs. Barcelona were far superior, but I just feel like they've never beaten Barcelona. I mean, Captain got that goal at the end. It was the first ever time they've scored against Barcelona at home at Stamford Bridge in so many tries. They played him in the final. They played him in the semi-final. And defensively, they were all over the place. They were so poor in the back line. And I don't know what it is. It's like a psychological edge that Barcelona seem to have over Chelsea because they've never beaten them, that they never seem to stick to their game plan. I love Sonia Bonpastor. I think she's been brilliant in her first season. I love her in interviews. I think she's got a lot about her. But I think the team just didn't turn up over both legs. I think, especially the game at Stamford Bridge, like I expected more. The fans came out in numbers, and I think the back line, Naomi Girma just hasn't been fit since she got there, and I feel for her because to start in that game, it was only her first start that she had against Barcelona, the best team, then gets pulled at half time based upon probably not being, able to kind of be in the game the whole time. And like, it's difficult moments, like the back line were just out of position. Neve Charles against Caroline Graham Hansen, like the list could go on, but like, I felt for Chelsea because every single year they are the team that everybody says is going to win it. And now Arsenal are in the final. It's the biggest anti-climax ever. I mean, I'm delighted Arsenal are in the final. But again, you look at Barcelona, Bonmati, Putellas, Mapi Leon was back. They just have every single player is just top.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. The back line was really shocking. But speaking of back lines that were shocking, that Lyon performance in the second leg versus Arsenal, I mean, for a team that just had a dominant defense throughout the tournament, I think allowed one goal in the group stage, was just crushing teams. I mean, I know, again, this is probably a long answer to a short question. What the heck happened to Lyon?
Do you know what? The first game I did at the Emirates, I thought they should have beaten Arsenal by way more. De Mornay, I thought was excellent in that game. Diani, excellent. Lindsay Heaps was brilliant in that game. Ellie Carpenter, like they had the game in the first leg that Arsenal had in the second. But then again, like Lyon hadn't lost since the final, like nearly a year. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy to think about. And like the fact that Arsenal went to Lyon yet again, because in 2022 they went there and won 5-1, but everyone was saying, oh, maybe they can use that in their favour. I was like, no, it's different. Joe Montemiro obviously going up against his former side. Renee Slaggers was his understudy. Like, there's just some amazing stories within that. But they just didn't turn up. And when I say they didn't turn up, Leon, that's what Chelsea needed Barcelona to do. Have an off day. We don't see them very often. They come along once in a blue moon. But when they do come along, you have to pray it's against your team. And thankfully, Arsenal were on it. Katie McCabe, Caitlin Ford, Alessia Russo, like they were all just on it. Kim Little had the best game I've seen her have. She's a top player, but her best game I've seen her play in about 3 or 4 years. She was unbelievable. So I think everything clicked for Arsenal. Nothing worked for Lyon in that game. And, and now it looks, I'm pretty sure Joe Montemero's now also moving on. So it's like crazy times.
It was funny watching your coverage pregame, postgame, at halftime of both matches, because I think you were like, okay, it seemed like you were just waiting for Lyon to turn it on. And I agree with you. The first match, I think they looked clearly like the better team. And then, yeah, just didn't show up for the second leg. I want to talk about that Barcelona defense. Obviously, we know your attacking prowess back in the day. I want to play a little, mental. Let's do a little visualization. So you're playing for Arsenal tomorrow. You've got Barcelona. That defense, Paredes, Mapi, Batia, that whole Katakoy, that whole lineup. If you have to wake up tomorrow and face that defense, how are you thinking about attacking them as Lianne Sanderson, the attacker?
Yeah, I mean, I would be delighted. I loved going up against top players, and I was able to do it a lot in my career. I'd let them worry about me, but I think sometimes it comes down to the service that you're being given from the midfield as well. Because I always like to occupy the space in between, the midfield and the front line, and no one knew whether to take me. So if I was going up against, say, Mapi Lyon, for example, I would drop deeper into the midfield, and they'd be thinking, "Oh, do I take her? Does Bob Matty take her?" Do you know what I mean? And I'd hear these players having these types of conversations about me. They'd be getting angry, like, "Who's taking her?" Because I wasn't like a normal orthodox number nine. I would drop in and play those types of roles. But I think there are, as crazy as it sounds, I do think they can be like got at. But I think their midfield and their front line are so good that no one ever really gets to the back line of Barcelona. When
Mm,
they do, they try and play the ball in behind, and Mapi Lyon just sweeps it up. I mean, the fact that Mapi Lyon takes corners and she's a centre back just typifies her technical ability. Like the way that I've seen it live so many times, they ping a ball into Mapi Lyon so close, it just kills it on a dime. And then he's able to play out, and they just move around the pitch in triangles. They are like, when you watch them live, they just are the most like perfect team with regards to what they're trying
yeah.
to do. And I don't even think like people say, oh, they don't even need to be coached, but they do. Jonathan Heraldez did a good job. Before that, Luis Cortez. And I think like they seem to recruit from within coaching wise. And I understand why they do that, because people might be thinking, well, why don't they go out there and get a massive name? But again, I'm glad that they have him, because they can then recruit from within, and he knows the philosophy and style.
I'm glad you bring that up. I wanna piggyback on that a little bit, because we have a lot of pals in who leave comments on our YouTube channel who are huge Barca supporters, and we have pointed out a lot of times that we know the roster is stacked, but even when Barca is moving players in and out of the lineup, you talk about that philosophy and the way they bring in coaches. It seems like the philosophy is almost, I don't know if player proof is too strong, because again they have great players,
Mhm.
but how do you view this? Like, they play the same way no matter who's on the pitch. How do you experience that?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually experienced it that myself when I was at Arsenal. I mean, I'm not saying we were like Barcelona, but from the young age at the academy, from the age of 9, it was the Arsenal way. And it's
Mm.
the same as La Masia. They seem to have that system where the players get to the first team and they know exactly what they're doing. They know their roles, they know their responsibilities. And I felt that at Arsenal. So when I got into the first team, it felt easier. I still had to step up, but I also knew what was expected of me, the non negotiables. And I think you're right. I mean, bringing in Pyle this year as well, like,
Oof.
just unbelievable. I mean, she
Yeah.
was on the bench the first game. Like, it's like, what? And then Brooks, like, they've just got players, Paraluelo, and it's almost like quite difficult for the coach, Pierre, to find his best 11, because it's like, who do you take out? Paraluelo didn't start the last game. It's like, it's just frightening. And I just think they just all know their roles and responsibilities. And there's certain players that you think they are Barcelona players. I was quite surprised that Lucy Bronze and Kira Walsh left so quickly, because Kira Walsh had been there, 2 years and then already moved on. And then it's like, yeah, I thought that was quite strange how both players left there, because not many players do that. Why would you leave the best team in the world?
Can I ask? I mean, have you had conversations as a lioness yourself? Do we have any information? Because like when you talk about Barcelona players too, I feel like Walsh fits that mode. Felt like Lucy Bronze, big game player, leader. That's a Barcelona player if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had any conversation with them individually about it, but I think like it's difficult because sometimes players just want to come home, depending
Sure.
on the part of their career they're at. I mean, I've played in other countries and I can only speak from my experiences. Sometimes it's more difficult than you think. When you're playing for, when I was at Juventus, I had a really difficult time and we won the double. Personally, it was quite difficult for me because I just felt like it was quite, the culture was quite cold. I wasn't really feeling welcomed by the outside, culture. Whereas like in the team, okay, it was a bit different to what I was used to. It was very much like military style, football, 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 which I'm obsessed with football anyway. But I think there's a lot more that goes on when you're playing in another country than just playing football. So I maybe that's one of the reasons. I don't know, but I can only speak from my experiences. And with Lucy Bronze, I mean, she's won the Champions League so many times with Lyon, with Barcelona. So, maybe she wanted to come in. For Kira Walsh, that one really surprised me because, she'd only been there for a couple of seasons. And, I mean, like I said, sometimes players just want to come home. And that's the reality. But I'll try and find out some information for you, Grant.
I appreciate that.
Love it. Appreciate it for sure. Lianne, I want to talk a little bit about Arsenal. So this is a team, they start to see, I mean, it's hard to imagine, but we started the season with Jonas Eidevall at the helm, who I want to talk about that one later too, because it seems like
Yeah.
both of those managers ended up in better spots. But thinking about the ups and downs with this Arsenal side, obviously losing to Hacken way, way, way back during qualifying, getting embarrassed by Bayern, coming back and getting some redemption there, falling behind Madrid, falling behind Lyon. Do you think this Arsenal team has any kind of specific ability to bounce back, or is this like a mentally tough team for you? Usually like these teams have some kind of signatures. This is a defensive DNA kind of team. This is a possession type team. Is Arsenal like the bounce back kind of team, or how do you see this team's personality?
I think from my conversations with individual players and from speaking to Renee, I think it's the calmness and the composure that she brings to the team. And I think it just works. I mean, she was at the club before as the interim basis, but she was assistant before that. She was actually at the academy when we won it in 2007, which I wasn't aware of because when I met
That's
her,
cool.
I introduced myself when I interviewed her after the Bayern game at Boreham Wood. And she said, "Oh no, we met before I was in the academy when you were in the first team." I was like, "Oh." So she kind of gets it, like the DNA of the football club. But I think the players seem happier. Sometimes things just need a change. And I did think like when you have a coach come from an assistant to a head coach, I say it all the time and I sound like a stuck record, but I've never not got along with an assistant because they're usually the ones that will come and put their arm around you. They'll come and tell you if they were the coach you'd be playing, like those types of things. They're always fun. They always lift you when you're down. And, so I think what Renee has done, I understood over the Christmas period when there was doubt whether she'd get the job. It wasn't because she wasn't going to get it. It was because she didn't know if she was ready yet. I mean, you're talking of a coach. She's like 36, 37 years old. Like to manage one of the biggest clubs in the world, that comes with pressure. And considering she isn't the most experienced, she's done an incredible job. And sometimes you don't need all the tactics in the world. I'm just speaking about my experience. Like best coaches I've ever had have let us play. Let us do what we want to do. Have the tactics, have all those things, but let me be Lianne. Let our team be our team. And I think you can see Alessia Russo. She's flying because she knows Renee. Stina Blackstenius has got minimal minutes now. When Alessia first got to Arsenal, Jonas Eidevall was starting Stina Blackstenius, and Alessia was playing a bit part role, which not saying it's a divine right because they paid a lot of money for you, but why would you sign one of the best forwards in the world and not give him a chance? So, and now look what's happening. Golden Boot, Player of the Year.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, we're here now when we talk about, the team under Slaggers, the team under Eidevall, the ascension of Alessia Russo, is that the biggest change? What else do you kind of see in the squad since Slaggers took over?
I think knowing her 11 and not
Mm,
really tinkering too much. Obviously, we saw she tinkered against Aston Villa and she had to really. I mean, the players got back on Monday from Lyon, the mental side of that, the tactic, everything about that, winning in the semi final, and then to go to Aston Villa on like the Tuesday play away. Like she made 7 changes in that game. But I think I just see that players seem more confident because there's nothing worse, right? You always
Mm-hmm.
want to be kept on your toes as a player, but there's nothing worse when you know a manager or a coach isn't having you. You just know it. No matter what you do, you're not
Yeah.
starting, or if you do start, you're coming off. And that's happened to me many, many times. I think with Renee, she's fair in her team selection. There's been times though where I've been quite. It's interesting. She's had to be quite ruthless. I mean, Beth Mead's been put on the bench a number of times since Chloe Kelly's come back
yeah.
on loan. So that's been a difficult decision. And I feel for Beth because I think it's almost like people are kind of forgetting about her. And she's a
Mm-hmm.
top player. Like she could go anywhere else and start every minute of every game. So, but I think she's had to make difficult decisions. Caitlin Ford and Katie McCabe, I think, have been excellent, especially in the Champions League. And I think she just believes in them. You don't see her on the sideline screaming, kicking, and all that. She sets the team up, similar to what Vic did with us when we won everything. And we just played. And you'll win some, you'll lose some, but this is the philosophy.
Yep, could just like lean on more muscle memory at that point, I think, and just kind of make it happen. I want to switch gears, Leanne, a little bit, talk about Barcelona. So you mentioned some of those attackers. We haven't even mentioned Claudia Pina. Even the midfield, Alexia. Battery is probably a good reason why Kira Walsh probably saw some minutes reduction, and maybe that definitely encouraged a change. But that Barcelona attack, like even just thinking about Payor versus Pina, what they're able to do, or even like you mentioned, Mapi from way way deep. Esme Brooks, I think she's found a home at left back. That Barcelona attack, have you seen anything like this?
Honestly, no, I don't think so. I mean, I think their five is just the front five is unbelievable. I mean, my only concern last season was that when Alexia came back, it was like, can you have two number ones? Yeah, it's just difficult because you have to find the chemistry with regards to Pi or Pina. But it's like one of those ones where it's like, okay, they have this team, they have, top players, but how do they find a way for Bon Matti and Alexia to play together? And they have. It's difficult because Alexia Putellas got injured. And then, Bob Matty comes in, well, not doesn't come in, but then gets two Ballon d'Ors. Alexia got two before that. Then it's like they flip flop, and I don't sense there's a chemistry problem there with regards to them individually, but it must be quite difficult because, I say you can't have two number ones, but what I mean by that is two goalkeepers that are fighting for that number one spot that are
Right.
number ones because that can upset the chemistry. So, but I just think they found the way. They're a top team. Pina, Payor, Paralluelo can come off the bench or start a game. I'd be interested to see the team selection in the 11 in the final because there are some questions over who will play in that front line. I have a feeling she'll go with the same front line that played against Chelsea with Paralluelo coming off the bench.
That was going to be my question. I mean, Claudia Pina has just been on such a heater lately. She has to start, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, 100%. And I think with Payor as well, I mean, you've got two players in there that are out and out goal scorers. And usually you find that when you play one, the other one will be on the bench. But I think the way they play the system together, I think they can play together, as we've
Yeah.
seen. It's not like they're not making the same runs, they're not
Yeah.
moving into the same spaces. One goes short, one goes long, one goes central, one goes left. Do you know what I mean? Like they're in a good page. But I understand why at times people probably thought they couldn't play together because in the first leg they didn't. And then Pyle comes off the bench and obviously bangs in the goals because it's what she does. And I think it's quite cute when you see Payor in her post-game interviews talking about the fact that why she signed for Barcelona from Wolfsburg. And you can see she's just so excited and grateful to be playing for Barcelona. Like anyone could say, well, I've come here to win the Champions League. And I guess that's a no-brainer when you sign for a team like Barcelona. But it doesn't always work that way. Look at Mbappe at Real Madrid. And I love Mbappe, but it doesn't always work like that. You sign for a team. It doesn't mean you're going to win the Champions League just because you won it the year before.
Yeah, no doubt. I think we had been talking about Payor, who's racking up goals for sure in Liga F. I definitely want to see some Champions League productivity, and she got on the board real quick versus Chelsea and has looked great since then. I want to ask you, Leanne, what would be the bigger story here? Let's say on one hand, Barcelona just mashes Arsenal 5-1, just it gets real ugly, and we're just like, okay, this is just the Death Star of football teams right now. Or Arsenal, considering their road to the final, coaching change, falling behind pretty much every Champions League tie that they were involved in, and then lifting the trophy. What to you would be the bigger story here?
I mean, I think it's a no-brainer for me. Arsenal obviously winning. I think what they've done in a short space of time, considering beginning of the season, you mentioned it before, Dino, with regards to starting off the season not great under Jonas. But I think this story, like similar to when we won it in 2007, like we were the underdogs. This could go two ways, this game. It's either there's three stories that could be here, right? And it's difficult to really say which one it will be. My head and my heart are telling me two different things, three different things. It's either going to be Barcelona will win really comfortably, and everybody will say, oh, it's what we expected anyway, or Arsenal will win. And what I mean by that, they won't win comfortably. I can't see Arsenal completely annihilating Barcelona. I think it'll be tight if they do. But they're going to have like all the games going to then go into extra time and it'll be anticlimactic and Barcelona will win. So there's three different scenarios like portrayed there because the only thing I'll say is that Barcelona probably would have loved to have played, like, I know they played Chelsea already, but a team they know in the final. Barcelona historically don't play Arsenal.
Mm.
They seem to always avoid each other in the group stages or in the league. I didn't play against Barcelona when I was playing. Like, we always avoided each other, and it wasn't as good as they are now then, if that makes sense. But, like, I think Barcelona will be thinking, ooh, this presents a different kind of basis, like skill here. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to have to really, dig deep. But the one thing about Barcelona, they don't care who they're playing against. They never go away from their game plan and their individual brilliance and quality. They're so consistent, aren't they? Like, how many times do you see any of their players having a bad day? I don't think it happens.
We talk about it all the time where the margin for error with every opponent who plays against Barcelona is absolutely tiny. And like you touched on earlier, you hope that Barcelona has like an off day in a couple different spots. It leads perfectly into the question I want to ask. I mean, obviously this match has not been played yet, but we see the two dominating 4-1 victories. They had a 6-1 and a 4-1 over Wolfsburg. They're just mowing teams down. Only loss in the Champions League was to a full strength City in the group stage. Is the gap getting bigger between Barcelona and the rest of the field?
Do you know what? I don't think so, because I actually think it's been a really good Champions League phase. But I think when you look at the score lines that they've had in the quarterfinal and the semi-final, then that's obviously, I can understand why people are saying that. I just think that the group stages have been good. I think there's been more competition within that. But obviously, as we know, when I did my preview show, Champions League draw, before this had even happened, I said I couldn't see past Barcelona and Lyon. And people might think
Right.
that's boring, but that's the reality. With regards to the team, the players, they are just so good. So I don't think the gap's getting bigger, but I do think Chelsea, that one will hurt for a long time. I think it's hurt them more than they're letting on to a certain degree, because they still had to wrap up the WSL. But if I was on that Chelsea team, that one would hurt me for a really long time, because it's like, how can they turn around and say potentially we need to get more players? We need more players. We need to recruit more, because the club have backed them. They bring in Naomi Gurman, Kira Walsh, like record breaking fees. They've got top players there already. They just fell short. So I think a lot of it is psychologically, because none of the players seem to show up over both the legs, and they're top players. So to me, that leads to like another issue, the psychological side of it, the pressure side. Because as soon as they go down against Barcelona, it probably feels like a deja vu. Here we go again.
Yeah.
Lianne, you talk about the psychological side. You mentioned the psychological edge earlier too. Can you talk a little bit and just maybe share a little bit about with some non-athletes? Grant and I are barely athletes, but can you share with some folks in the audience how big a role the psychology plays?
Yeah, I think for me, I was very blessed that I played on really good teams. So I was never really in a relegation battle, or I was like, but going into the Champions League final, we were the underdogs. We were playing against Umea, Marta's team. Ramona Bachmann was 16 years old. They had some of the best players in the world, Hannah Lundberg, Elaine, like they were unbelievable. And I think going into that game, we were the underdogs, but we didn't feel it. Everybody was talking about us being the underdogs, but we knew we were very, very good. But we knew we'd have to, have the game of our lives. And best believe in 2007, it was over two legs, which is crazy to think about. Like a final
Wild.
was over two legs. Like, and we won the first one. Alex Scott scored the goal, and we won 1-0 away. But I think, like, I love pressure. And I think thankfully I was on a team that thrived under pressure. The bigger the challenge, the bigger we became. And that you don't know that about individuals until you get put in that position. Whereas I was when you look at the best teams in the world, whether that be Barcelona, Real Madrid, Man City, when they were obviously good last year, like they have players that can handle it, so mentally. Because you can have like all the attributes as a player. I've had players the day of a game being sick. I've had players that, like, every time there was a big game, they would say they were ill, and and you
Oh,
just had
wow.
a miraculous recovery afterwards. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes pressure is too much for people, and that's the reality. But again, you don't know it until you go through those moments. So I'm a bit like I call myself like a bit like an alien, like where I'm not normal. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I loved pressure. Like, I thrive under pressure even now when I'm on television. I love it when it's live. I love it. And I know I'm different like that. And I was like that as a player. So I think you don't really know the mental side of it until you kind of have that team. Like Sonia Bonpastor will be looking at the players, and coaches look at the players and think, okay, are they ready for this? They might be ready when it comes to speed, agility, technical ability, but are they ready psychologically? And it's a big part of the game.
I love that. I feel like across all sports you see that too, where a team, they might have those questions, or pundits might have those questions like, are they ready for this? And then I feel like you always hear, and maybe some of it is a bit cliche, but cliches crop up because there's some fact behind them, where a team says, we didn't feel that pressure because we didn't know any better. Like, yeah, I feel like you hear that phrase a lot. Do you then, when you talk about, you don't know how it's going to go till you're in it, is there a jump after that? Like, I feel like sometimes you see a team win the title or win a trophy, and now they like hit this next gear. Did you kind of feel that during your playing days?
I did when I was at Arsenal, but it was like a domino effect because
Mm,
once you won once, like I said, our team was like a different breed. I don't think we'll ever see that again. Or I've never felt it again. I've come close when I've been on teams, but the feeling we had at Arsenal, the camaraderie, like the respect we had for each other, the quality we had. And I think, I've never really had that in my career because I've always been surrounded by amazing people and teammates and players. So my situation was quite unique, Grant, because I've always because I was good. I'm not saying I was Ronaldo, but like I was always wanted by top teams. So therefore it's like a domino effect because then you go to a top team and you just continue winning.
yeah.
But there obviously is that saying, it's hard getting there, but it's even harder staying there.
Mm,
And I think at Arsenal, we were so dominant and we were just on a roll. Like Man City men, the amount of trophies and titles they won over the 4 or 5 years, over 8 years under Pep, like and the wheels have fallen off this season and that will happen. But you have to ride that wave. And I think for Chelsea, for example, win their sixth consecutive WSL title, that shouldn't be undervalued because
yep.
that is hard to do. Like everyone's coming for them every single year. They're adding players. Man United, Arsenal want that. City want that. But Chelsea keep doing it year after year. So that shouldn't be diminished by people based upon, I think a lot of fans are like, oh, it's getting boring. No, it's not boring. Everyone else has to step it up.
I think the thing I remember most, and I was like lucky enough the timing worked out. I covered the match where City lost to Arsenal with those two Blackstenius goals late, and then Chelsea, because that's who they are. Exactly to your point, they go out and they smash Bristol City like 8-0, erase the goal
Mm.
differential. It's like they smelled the blood in the water because that's who they are. They play like champions every week.
Yeah, and it's difficult because there were moments last year. I mean, and again, that's the pressure moments. Arsenal conceding late on and those types of things. It makes it Man City, sorry, conceding late on. It's a thing where it makes a difference. Like you're ahead, you have to make the most of that game management. And then, like I said, a lot of people can say, "Oh, they've got the best players, so they should win it." It doesn't work like that. Honestly, chemistry on a team also is really important because you can have so many top players, but they might not get on. They might not listen to the manager. They might think they're always right. Like you just have to find the best chemistry for a team.
Totally agree. You mentioned your heart versus your head. Can Arsenal win this match?
I think they can if they perform the way they did in the leg against Lyon. And I also think if Barcelona have an off day, which I've not seen them have. Do you know what I mean? Because I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, in the league, they're not annihilating teams and all that." It doesn't matter; they're still getting the job done. So my head and my heart's telling me two different things. I think it'll be really difficult for Arsenal to beat Barcelona because I think like sometimes in England we have this ability to think when an English team gets to a semi-final they're automatically going to win. Like everyone was saying Barcelona, Chelsea would beat Barcelona, and I was probably one of the only people saying they wouldn't. And everyone's like, "Well, you're from England. Why are you saying that?" I'm like, "Because Barcelona are the best." As much as I'd love Chelsea to get there, let's not be real here. I think sometimes there's a bit of lack of respect for these teams like Lyon and Barcelona and Wolfsburg. I know they fell short this year, but every single year to repeatedly come back in that way, and especially for a team like Lyon that doesn't have the best league and the most competitive league,
Right.
are able to year after year come back. But I think I don't know. I'll be able to tell after the first 10 minutes of the game. So I'll message you and let you know what I think because I'll be able to tell how the game's potentially going to go depending on if Barcelona come out and the occasion. Arsenal have to manage the occasion as well because,
Mm,
they've not, these players haven't been there before. We've been there in 2007, but none of those players were part of that. None of the staff was part of that, apart from Kelly Smith. So she'll be able to, you know, really speak true to that experience. And I know a lot of the players are drawing on that experience of ours. A lot of them are aware of what we did because they're reminded of it, but they're also respectful of what we did.
And I'll say Arsenal, Arsenal and Chelsea do a great job of the supporters, packing in the stadium, playing in big moments. I mean, it's fair to say, though, as a guy who obviously never stepped on a big field, there's just a difference. Even if you have 50,000 at the Emirates, there's just a difference between playing in the Champions League final, right? There's no comparison.
No, there isn't. And I think, like I said, the occasion is going to be like Barcelona have been there the last 4 years. You know, they're in the same, I know it's a different location, but like they bring a lot of fans, Barcelona. Last year, when we were in Bilbao, it was like Barcelona were at home. I
Yeah,
know they're close by, but like everywhere they go, whether it be Eindhoven, they always carry so many fans. And I think what's great about this final is that Arsenal will be bringing fans as well. And that'll make a big difference. And I think the fact that Arsenal's home games have all been at the Emirates this year, you know, they're used to these big moments. They've had these big moments. They've gone to Lyon and won. They can take a lot of confidence from that. But Arsenal haven't had the best start end to the season in the
yeah,
WSL. You know, it was a bit of an indifferent time. And I think these things happen. You know, Brighton and Villa, based upon it was like they were hungover, not drinking hungover from the game,
right.
but again, the physicality, the psychological part of playing in a big game like they did against Lyon, then to go again 2 days later against Villa is difficult. Like people can say, oh, you know, it's your job. Yeah, it is, but it's hard. Like these intense games are really hard.
So obviously the final coming up May 24th, 9 a.m. Pacific. We're on Pacific time now. May 24th, 9:10 a.m. Lianne will be texting us, letting us know who's going to win the match. So we'll be looking forward to that. Um,
No, I'm not messaging you saying who's going to win. I'm saying that you can kind of tell in the first 10 minutes what
sure.
teams come to party, like the
What are
Leon
you
Arsenal game.
What are you going to be looking for those first 10 minutes? I'm really curious.
I'm looking for the press from Arsenal if they're sitting off of Barcelona and allowing them to have the ball, if they're showing them too much respect. Because you can see what Chelsea did in over those two legs. It's like we respect this team, but we're over respecting them in a weird way. Whereas I think Arsenal needs to do what they did against Leon. Doesn't matter of the occasion, play the game, not the occasion. I was always told. I can tell from a warm up the players how they're feeling. You can see how laid back they are. That's why I love watching warm ups. That's why I love watching the players and seeing you know, where they're at with that.
Do you have a prediction? Do you have an official prediction? Have you made a prediction? Can you share a prediction?
I
Are you allowed to
mean,
share a prediction with us?
I can do, yeah, I mean, I can do what I like, but at the same time, I feel like I have to back Arsenal because I want them to win. But I just think Barca, oh, God. I think it's going to go extra time. Can we say that? I
Love
think
that.
There
Barcelona
we
will win in
go.
extra time. But I really want Arsenal to win, but they just have to show up like they did against Leon. Please.
Love it. Love it. One
Awesome.
leg, who knows? I had a quick NWSL question. I think, did you mention Domino was your MVP through 8 weeks?
Yep.
Okay. I want to take a little take for a test spin with you. I think Alyssa Thompson, it's early, but I think her play, she's making a big impact. She's distributing. She's got Angel City kind of looking like a real team. Is there any merit to my very early MVP stealth campaign for Alyssa Thompson?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just because I said Dabinia doesn't mean there's not other players that can be in amongst it as well. I think Alyssa Thompson has been brilliant this year. Last year also was really good. I think not making the Olympic squad. I spoke to her and she was it was so refreshing to hear a young player just say I wasn't good enough. You know, I wasn't ready yet. I
Mm,
worked on my game in the off season and you can see it's making a big difference. And sometimes when you get selected for major tournaments when you're so young, the pressure then comes and you might not be ready yet. That's not on Alyssa Thompson. The coach picks her. Of course she's going to go, but was she ready yet? You know, maybe not. But at the same time, like she's been exceptional this year. She's been brilliant. I think Sam Lady also has done a really good job with Angel City. So I'll be
yep.
interested now. Obviously, he's not going to be there. Like I think they're keeping him on board in some capacity, whether it be an assistant or something like that. But I think it's a big call not keeping him on really. But Alyssa Thompson has been brilliant. But Dabinia for me, I just think she does things that no one else can do. And it's not just her goals that she scores, it's her touch, it's her ability to be able to manipulate the ball. She's always a threat. And I think that injury she had to her ACL a couple of years ago, it takes a little while for players to kind of come back to the levels we know, but we knew she still had it in her. Then she picked up that hamstring injury the beginning of the season last year. So I just think she's been brilliant. And yeah, but I equally agree. Alyssa Thompson is in with a shout as well.
Definitely going to be exciting to see how it plays out the rest of the year. I mean, it's a basic take from me. I still got my eyes out on Esther, see what kind of upward
Mhm.
mobility Gotham FC has, obviously leading the Golden Boot race. But
Yeah, that's a great shout. I love her stairs. She's unbelievable as well. Like, She's just so good, and she took to this league coming over from Spain so easily last year, which doesn't usually happen, especially from European football coming straight here. And I love her. I think she's top player. We'll have to wait and see at the end of the season.
Keep an eye on that for sure. All right, Lianne. Well, absolutely appreciate the time. As mentioned, as Grant
Anytime.
mentioned up top, your voice, your insights definitely got me into the game. So maybe without you, there's no us at the ITC. So I appreciate you. I'll say that for probably like the last time, or maybe I'll say it every time I see you. Who knows? We'll see. Either way, definitely appreciate the time. I think we did it. This is another episode of Into the Channel. Huge thanks to our guest, Lianne Sanderson.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you both. And looking forward to hopefully seeing you at some point soon in the NWSL season.
Let's go. San Fran, Seattle, you let us know. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grand Angle, for, being my, Lianne liked when coaches let her do what she does. I let Grant do what he does. That's my guy. That's my guy up top, my number 9. So I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. Thanks again, Lianne. We will see you down the road. And for everybody watching, thanks for watching. And we will see you all next time.